Avowed is not trying to be everything in one package. It is not trying to redefine the way we play games or live our lives. It's not trying to tell you that everything that you learned in your gaming life was wrong and you need to start from scratch. No, Avowed's not trying to reinvent the fantasy wheel, and I love that. I don't know, I don't find that much enjoyment when most of the game's fun and engagement is via mouse clicking and pixel hunting. I'm more nerdy than that. I like to create different strategies and builds with my characters and see those strategies develop over time, and like winning because I took some decisions, some specific decisions throughout the game. That is very fun and engaging to me. And also with games that have a very compelling narrative and finely written dialogue. And Avowed delivers a lot of that. Usually when games offer a first person and a third person perspective, I immediately go with the third person. I don't know, I prefer to see a little bit more of my surroundings, have a better spatial sense for my character, and be a little more grounded. I actually much prefer top-down viewing games. But here for Avowed, I am having a great time playing exclusively in first person. I don't know, the level design is great, the spatial sense is very good, and also the combat. I'm having a great time with Avowed's combat. It is very fun, engaging, and smooth. To me, Avowed is a step in the right direction for Obsidian Entertainment in a great way to bring the world of Pillars of Eternity to a broader audience. Hey guys, it's Harry. I've been a game designer and producer for the past 10 years, and in this video we're gonna talk about Avowed. It's gonna be a great discussion. So go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more content about the games industry, the behind scenes for games, and the perspective of an actual game developer, go ahead and subscribe. Most people in the channel watching the videos are not subscribed yet, and that helps me a lot. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel and let's dive into it. Obsidian is one of my favorite studios of all time. They really mastered the craft of creating role-playing games in the best sense possible. Like Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, Pentiment, Tyranny, Fallout New Vegas. Obsidian's portfolio is an endless source of envy for every game developer and a delight to RPG fans. All of their games have very well developed characters, a great storyline, character creation that is fun and engaging for you to create your own strategies, your own way to experience the journey in that game. And before we dive more into Avowed, let me tell you how much I love Pillars of Eternity. It's one of my favorite games of all time. First time I played it, it was very impactful to me. The writing is outstanding. I was mesmerized. It was so immersive. I didn't feel like those characters were simply talking ragdolls. They were living people with intricate stories, agendas, and emotional background of their own. The voiceover was also very powerful, but the script was the king. Pillars of Eternity changed me as a gamer. After Pillars, every RPG that didn't quite have the same level of depth and immersion didn't get me invested as much. Of course, Pillars is a heavy and verbose game, and it requires a lot of time and patience to really get into it. And I mean, living the adult life, we don't always get that kind of patience for every gaming session. So Avowed is definitely a lighter version of that. Characters are still very well written, with skillfully performed voiceover that helps you connect with their stories and drama. And it's overall a delightful experience. You can still draw a lot of depth from its system, especially from the fact that you don't have the rigid archetypes like wizard or warrior. Instead, the game lets you pick any combination of archetypes in a classless system. I do find that proposition very compelling, like not having an archetype to follow, but instead building something without many rules or restrictions. It does require more effort from you though, to understand what combinations might work best, but it gives you a world of possibilities if you really want to invest your time into learning it, and that's refreshing. And the decision to target your game to a specific audience is always a tricky one, and I'd like to discuss this here for Avowed. Obsidian's a studio known for their rich and deep narrative games. On the other hand, they are almost always very niched. They don't get that broad of an audience. Tyranny, for example, has one of the most intriguing premises for RPGs that I've ever seen, where you are an enforcer at the service of an evil overlord of the continent. So the moral is all but subverted in this chaotic world. But it is undeniably a very niched experience, both in mechanics as in narrative. So I can totally see why Obsidian decided to target some of a broader audience with a lighter, colorful, more action-focused RPG. Despite being a lighter experience compared to other Obsidian games, Avowed still provides a very well-told story and a good amount of depth in its systems. Especially now that they are part of Microsoft, they've got a lot more budget to work with, but also expectations are equally higher. So the flagship titles that they release need to be bolder and aim for the big numbers. Otherwise, you cannot justify your existence as a studio for the long term. It's not an accident that Obsidian and Avowed game director Cary Patel decided to focus this game on the Living Lands, a pretty unexplored part of the world in Pillars of Eternity, giving the team a large space for exploration. After all, this is the first fantasy AAA title that Obsidian has done under Microsoft's umbrella. So as much as Avowed entices the player to explore the exotic and exquisite landscapes of the Living Lands, so does Obsidian use this game to explore new ground with what is possible with their franchise. Avowed is their biggest bet to put one of their key franchises into the mainstream AAA competing space. And it is a great thing to see when we think about it. If you played Pillars of Eternity, or if you simply enjoy a deep and complex world building, you gotta love the fact that they are investing to make the world of Eora into something bigger. Sure, we absolutely need to have Pillars of Eternity 3 and other classic style RPGs that make the original vision for the world, but Eora is rich and offers a lot of different possibilities, with more games and playstyles that can attract different types of players. That is what really enriches a franchise, and we can think about what Blizzard did to Warcraft. Initially an RTS, Warcraft morphed into an MMO, and then a card game, and now we have a mobile game, so it's kinda all over the place for the franchise. There's countless books, comic books, animations, movies. Creating a powerful IP is one of the biggest assets of any creative company. You know, if Warcraft remained only as an RTS game, it would not be very relevant today, and we wouldn't have World of Warcraft. Can you imagine a world without the Alliance and the Horde battling through Azeroth? The games industry would not be the same without it. So no more playing small in a niche market with walls of text that you have to read, which by the way are a total delight. I adore Pillars of Eternity writing, but in a TikTok-driven world of today, who wants to read text in a game? That's the reality that we live in, and game companies kind of have to adapt to some extent. That definitely doesn't mean making TikTok games or making things without a high level of quality. But it does mean understanding your current audiences and how your games can resonate with more people while maintaining the essence that you want. And by the way, that's what I think Avowed manages to do. As a big Pillars of Eternity fan, I still feel immersed in Eora. I feel it's the same world, but a different perspective. A different scenario, someone else's story inside that world. I mean, the world is a big thing, right? So it makes sense that we can drive multiple types of experiences from it. Maybe small indie studios still have the luxury of retaining their hardcore small target audience, but a veteran AAA studio funded by one of the biggest companies in the world doesn't have the same luxury. At least with their flagship titles. I mean, have you guys played Pentiment? Pentiment is a narrative masterpiece. It's full of rich ideas, an incredible world, intricate characters that are multifaceted and have their own agendas, you know, this unique gameplay, and it's the same studio. A smaller team inside the same studio created this incredible and unique experience. And we have to give Microsoft a little bit of credit for greenlighting projects like that, because a lot of big companies would never do that. They would go for the safe options, more of the same, you know, not those crazy different ideas, small ideas, you know. Big companies want the big bucks. So they are not, most of the time, are not willing to invest in those different innovative ideas. So kudos to Microsoft for that. Obsidian's home to some of the most creative designers and developers in the industry. They carry the essence of the golden era of RPGs, the Baldur's Gates and Fallouts of the world. So if they can find ways to be more and more relevant with some incredible games and franchises, I'm all for it. Like I said in the beginning, Avowed is not trying to be everything. It's not trying to be the definitive RPG experience of this generation. It's more of a controlled step into this AAA RPG space. And it's funny, it's like they had some keywords to use as design pillars for Avowed, like colorful landscapes, intriguing narrative choices, smooth combat, and freedom in character progression. And in all those things, I believe Obsidian succeeded masterfully. The combination of a vibrant color palette with the fungi as the main element breaking the natural environments creates something very unique visually, even among other similar propositions, other colorful fantasy games. The art direction is so powerful here, and it compels you to explore further, to see what's behind the corner, to look at the horizon, mark it on the map, and carve your way out there. And the smooth combat experience, together with the classless progression, gives you a lot of satisfaction in exploring different builds and gear. Again, Avowed's combat is one of the most fluid and frictionless that I've seen in action RPGs, especially in first person. So I can really see how the developers behind the scenes were probably having a lot of meetings to brainstorm and strengthen the core pillars of the game over and over. And you see the results on screen, and that is refreshing. Having a game that stands for something, that has a powerful identity. You know, these days games lack identity so much. They're just trying to replicate the successes of other studios or their own past successes. You know, so it's great to have games that you can remember and distinguish from other games. Even the fact that your character is a godlike, an individual that was touched by the grace of the gods in the world of Yora, but that actually translates into some disfigurement on your character's face, where you can have some sort of branches coming out of your head or fungi covering half of your character's face. That is not a common choice for the design of a main character, who usually needs to be more heroic or following standards that are more acceptable to people. And that is also a strong message for the game to convey, that they are willing to make some bold decisions that take the story and the game experience to different heights. And that's what helps setting this game apart from other games out there, is this combination of mechanics and concepts that create something unique that players haven't quite experienced before. I mean, sure, we have played other action RPGs, fast-paced shooters, or colorful games, but when all comes together with exquisite writing in a classless progression system, then you have something that stands out, that stands for something. Then you can really feel that Avowed has a place in gaming history. And even though I said that in order to become more competitive in the AAA space, Obsidian needs to go big, I actually think that the games industry as a whole needs to become smaller. Smaller in the sense of focusing on smaller experiences instead of always trying to get bigger and bigger than their previous games, with bigger maps, a ludicrous amount of content, characters, tech tree, or whatever. This obsession with games having to always have a larger scope than before is the biggest offender when providing us with games that are incomplete, trying to chew more than they can bite, attempting to do everything and be everything, but losing identity and quality along the way. The same way we wouldn't expect a movie to be all genres at the same time, we need to stop expecting games to do everything in one go. Overscoping is the number one problem in the games industry, period. I have seen that firsthand in my own indie studio, I have seen that in big AAA companies. Because of the constant pressure of the market to go big, studios end up going wide instead of deep, not having enough time and resources to iterate on designs, to take their time and really polish the map or get down to the details of the story and the characters. Letting great studios focus on smaller experiences is like aiming your bazooka at a very small target. It's gonna be a hell of a blow. And when studios are concerned with more playtime, more hours that the players can put into a game to make their money worth it, there's actually much more potential in allowing the system itself to provide several different ways for the players to progress, and in that way welcoming replayability. We don't necessarily need huge maps to do that. Anyway, I'm very happy to see Obsidian exploring further and further the world of Pillars of Eternity and bringing that franchise to other types of games and audiences. But naturally, I will continue to wish for more and more classic styles RPGs, the ones that I love, Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny, Fallout, and other types of games, because they are awesome. What is your favorite RPG of all time? What do you like to do most in an RPG? There's so much you can do in an RPG. You can develop your character, you can really go deep into the story, you can min-max stats to get the best out of battles. So how do you like to experience RPGs? Leave in the comments below, and I really want to see it. And that's it for today. Thank you guys, keep rocking, and I'll catch you guys next time.